What is buffer time? What is buffer time? Is what buffer time?
Happy Cinco de Mayo! I've had 3 shots of something called tequila just to get into these JJ motherfuckers. Before I say anything culturally appropriating, I'm best of Trek from insert name here.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Scott from Opinions No One Cares About.
Robbie Sherman, Conversation with Robbie Sherman.
I'm Win Grace, and today I'm sponsored by Nokia.
I'm Ren. You can find me at YouTube, Ren Rants.
And my name is Vanessa, and I host a YouTube channel called I Love Bad Star Trek.
All right, let's just run this down kind of from the beginning. Does the USS Kelvin feel like a Starfleet ship? Like what we know knew a Starfleet ship to be, at least up to that point before the new era.
Well, when you put it that way, no, because like the bowels of the Kelvin, as well as the bowels of the Enterprise, look like the inside of a factory compared to every other starship we've seen.
It feels more like a submarine. Also, where they exited with the shuttle looks very different. There was like this big bulb on the top of the disc or whatever. That was very different, but I think it's more true to like a submarine, and I actually kind of appreciate that.
It was definitely a lot of extra flourishes and bits and pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it does and it doesn't feel like a Star Trek ship. Like, on one hand, it's definitely got some of the elements, but it does feel kind of like its own thing at the same time, so it's not like totally cohesive with what we've come to expect a starship to look like up to this point.
Do you think the inside of the Kelvin on the captain's way to the shuttlecraft looks like the inside of a factory?
I mean, kind of, yeah. There's also sort of like a loading dock aesthetic to the shuttle launch bay.
I guess that's what happens when you film inside a factory.
I kind of like that on a certain level because it harkens back to like a working class idea that these people are working in bare bones conditions from the very hard, like more realistic pulp sci-fi Star Trek is initially based off of. Though it does feel funky to me to watch it.
Yeah, it's like they tried to make it look more slick and futuristic with some of it, and then other parts are just so low tech. It's kind of like a mishmash.
Yeah.
Agreed. Like some of it's very rustic and something like mentioned before, something you'd see in the bowels of a submarine, but in other places it's like really zhuzhed way beyond anything that we've seen on a starship to this point.
It definitely feels like it's responsible for the aesthetic we get in Discovery, especially in terms of like the sort of like darker aesthetic of the ship overall.
Mm-hmm.
So as to Mr. Captain's question, I don't think there is a difference, or at the very least, all alternate timelines are alternate universes, but not necessarily all alternate universes are alternate timelines.
Yes.
I guess would be the answer.
So like, yeah,
I hate
guess
temporal
if you look at like the mirror universe, we don't have a distinct point like where someone went back in time and made it a separate universe. Here we actually get a distinct point where someone's diverging the timeline based on their actions.
But then you could say that wasn't that alternate universe always like meant to be and always in existence? Then it becomes philosophical. So
But
it's
red
like,
matter though.
Yes. Red matter mixed with chronotons, solve any problem you've got.
Always with
I
chronotons.
do wonder, like, why they decided to sort of branch off in this direction. Is it just so that they can justify using the TOS brand, but not retell the same story, even though some of the movies kind of do?
They end up retelling some
Yeah.
of the same stories.
I think
Yep.
it was like it was supposed to please both people. I think he wanted to like do a reboot, but not completely piss off original fans. So he's like, I'm gonna show them the original universe is still there, but then still do my own thing. So it was kind of like a stopgap measure.
All that junk tipped me off so much when Into Darkness came out because I knew there were alternate universe stuff happening in this, and then I got a retelling of Khan. And I wanted alternate universe stuff because we create a new universe and we can do so much more with that. But I'm getting ridiculous Khan nonsense. Tired of that crap.
That's next week.
Weirdly
Oh my god.
specific to their con
Yeah.
nonsense.
Luckily, they learned a lesson and never went back to the con well again.
Small mercies.
Do the Beastie Boys feel out of place in Trek?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I liked it. It was fun.
Yes.
I like the music, but it creates a
Oh.
paradox because the Beastie Boys talk about Star Trek in their songs.
Yes, they reference Spock a lot.
Yeah.
It's not even the problem with the destruction of Romulus, because they repeat that story beat in Picard, and have a similar sort of like, I resent that this problem wasn't addressed sufficiently kind of thing. And that was fine. But the thing with this is they're just sort of like branching off just enough to sort of justify repeating the same thing, but under a different banner. The thing about this scene with the Beastie Boys and everything, it just felt so on the nose. Like, we have to make him a rebel, but we have to make him like a super rebel. We have to make him somebody who's stealing cars and doing a, almost driving it off a cliff. Like, the amount of like ridiculous set pieces in this movie just kind of turned me off. Like, there's
I
like
think they could have.
no subtlety whatsoever. There's no like rules. It's like 2-second conversation, fight, 2-second conversation, car chase, 2-second conversation, space battle. Like, it's exhausting.
You didn't think
I
that
do
was a
think-
tasteful, contemplative car chase?
I do think it's funny how the
Turkey's
Romulans
really
get their
sexy.
shit wrecked so many different times in so many different ways in like Trek movies, and I guess like new Trek. Like, that is kind of funny that Romulus gets like blasted 2 times.
Mhm.
Oh, Scott, you
As
changed.
far as the Beastie Boys song, as far as the Beastie Boys song, I think you could replace it with something different, like a Limp Bizkit tune, and it wouldn't
my
matter.
God.
Like,
Yeah, yes, it would.
the
Yes,
thing
it
would
absolutely
play the
would.
same. Like, it's just a dumb scene that you could put any bit of music to. Like, that's the problem I have with it. Like, it feels nondescript. Like, it doesn't add anything more.
Maybe a
Give
little.
that a yes, but it's got to at least be a good modern song, and there is no good modern.
I would want to
Limp
hear
Bizkit song.
something like, we don't really know much about Kirk except he's kind of an asshole in this movie, to be completely honest. Like, it would be great to hear a song that Kirk specifically liked, or something that reminded him of his father, or
Yeah.
something. Like, any character development would have been awesome.
Like the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins or something like that.
They could have even tied that in. They could have even tied that into Star Trek V and have him listening to row, 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 you know, like something dumb like that. Like,
I mean, I really do appreciate actually that in this situation, if you're going to use a car from today, that you're using a song from somewhere near today, rather than, I mean, it's a big budget movie. You've got a budget for more than just row, row, row your boat, or Frere Jacques, or
True.
whatever it feels good at the time. Whatever's in the public domain, really.
And like, why steal a car? Like, what is the point? Like, where does he even
Why
seem
have
to
a
home?
car?
Like, what is he? Where is
So,
he even
Tess-
fucking going? Like, it's
Why are there
And
No,
does
you-
Iowa have a lot of
Why
cliffs?
are there roads for cars? Actually,
Where he was going, he didn't need roads.
Fair.
Best answer.
Look, that's his stepdad's car. It'll piss off his stepdad one way or the other, so it's a win-win for him whether he gets caught or not. That's why he took the car.
Well, at least we got to see him drive by who's supposed to be Sam Kirk really quick.
Is J.J. Abrams allergic to wide shots? Vanessa, this is your question, but yes, I've had the same goddamn one. How is, like, unless you're looking at the exterior of the Enterprise, and then even then in this movie, it's almost really close-up shots, kind of like what's behind me with the Kelvin here.
That was pretty decent
So,
shift
yeah.
one, though.
Yeah, I when I direct things, I tend to I like nice wide shots, but it's all fucking like in people's nostrils here.
it ensures
He
that
directs
there's
it like it's a
constant
sitcom.
there's like constant movement in the frame, and it's really hard to follow what the hell is going on if you keep zooming in like right up in your face.
Well, and zooming
it's
in
to
like
better
on
see
angles.
the lens flares.
You have to. Because, yeah, you like enter the bridge from the turbo lift and you're coming in at an angle like, woo. Like, I don't know, maybe they didn't design things well enough, so they had to just kind of hide everything.
Or like they don't even have to hide anything. They could just like stop with the shaky cam for like 2 seconds and just like focus on two people
Yep.
talking without like, oh my God, over here. And then it's very like Section 31 coded with the way that the camera work was done.
It feels like they're scared that the action fans will like walk out of the theater if there's like a single moment of peace in the movie.
Have I frozen?
You
Your
briefly
video
blinked
does.
away into
You're
like a
actually
little
done.
green dot. Oh wait, no, you are frozen. Yeah.
Like contrast that courtroom scene in Undiscovered Country with there you are.
Oh,
No, I'm trying to fix this problem. I may have to relog in. Just keep going. You guys.
Oh, okay. So like the courtroom scene in Undiscovered Country and the panel scene with Spock and the Vulcan Science Academy, the way that those things were shot. Like you got like a real sense of scale. You had like a sense of like they're at the bottom of this sort of well thing and looking up at the judge, and the judge is looking down on them, and there's like this big cavernous feel. Whereas like in the Vulcan Science Academy, it's just this big wall and they're just on top of it. There's no visual interest at all. And the camera just kept going like this. And it's like, what is being accomplished here visually? I don't understand.
Cannot catch a break.
That said, I did kind of like the weird little like bubble learning holes in the Science Academy for the kids. That was an interesting visual choice.
Cool.
sometimes
Oh, that's
I
one of my
think this
favorite
thing
bits
is.
right
Sometimes when I'm watching this thing, it feels like a sitcom almost because they do so many close-ups, like they do so many like pans to another character. Like you could do some of these pans in an episode of Modern Family or something like that. Like you're saying a line and you're having an argument between two characters and you're bouncing around between both of them. That's become a common staple in modern sitcoms. It's it's just annoying in this movie though. I would like less of it. Like
Like I
Close
thought
up is worth it.
Oh, go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
I'm saying the close up is worth it in this scene in particular because Zachary Quinto continues to be the only person in history to say "live long and prosper" with the clear subtext of "fuck you."
Well, that's, Vulcans in general are incredibly passive aggressive. That's their MO. Like I would have been cool with like the tight close-ups as like a stylistic choice, like to show like flashback or something, to show like the frenetic, panicked
Sure.
energy in the past or something, but it just kept coming up, and it's like, this doesn't feel intentional anymore.
Yeah, it was just basically a roller coaster ride from the beginning to end. There's no real. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Just quiet moments where they're thinking about stuff, or even when they're putting a plan together. There's no conference room table in this. They're just like sitting on the bridge, kind of just like, here's an idea, here's an idea, here's an idea. Okay, we're gonna do this, and then someone's gonna punch somebody probably, or make out in the turbo lift while we're transitioning to the next scene, because we can't have people standing there not doing something.
I feel like this trilogy is kind of responsible for the sort of like modern impression that Kirk isn't very bright and is kind of just like basically a frat boy in space. Because like, don't get me wrong, like Kirk's always been like a messy lad, but like in TOS they make a point to like, you know, communicate how intelligent he is. And here, like, I mean, they kind of try with like the Kobayashi Maru test, but like even the way that's handled is just not good. So like him becoming the captain of the ship halfway through the movie is absurd, and then the fact that he gets to stay captain afterwards is outrageous.
And
they saw the goods.
I mean, if Tyler Perry says you can be captain, I guess you can't really fight it.
The worst scene, I think, in this is in the bar when he's basically hitting on Ahura, and then Ahura makes a comment about him having sex with animals, and then he gets into a fight because of course he does, and then he grabs her boobs when he's like pushed, and that's like so unnecessary. Like what?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And honestly, that's just like a setup, because there's, you know, all this reputation Kirk had for being smart, but also for being tough. And yet in this movie, he gets his ass kicked on 3 separate occasions.
Okay, Eric. Since you brought that up, we need to consider that this is anime influence. So that shot where he grabs her boobs by accident is probably just like fan service that they put in. You know, like I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying like I like it, but you know, I think it's a logical link between the, you know, the thought process behind such a thing.
It's like, and then later she's just without clothes on for no reason, just like takes off her clothes, and that just she just walks into a room and disrobes for no reason, and it's like, why? They talk about her abilities, but you never actually see them. Outside of making out with Spock. And then like she has to convince Spock to go on the Enterprise, even though she has the test scores capable that are enough to go on there. But it's like, oh, I don't want to do that because you're my girlfriend and blah blah blah. And it's like, that why that was ever included, I don't understand. That I understand that this is meant to be a deviation from the original series, but there being a couple adds nothing.
Aside from, I guess, giving, I'm guessing they worked backwards from, we need somebody to be there for Spock after Vulcan gets exploded. So let's hook him up with somebody so that we can have a scene to like calm him down later.
They also love to shoehorn a romance in, like, you know, it's kind of like a Hollywood standard. I mean, she basically got Tariel.
Oh, hello.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna like log out again anyway. I want to echo what Nadia said here a minute ago. Scott, I loved that thing you did in the ticker about like the Beastie Boys line with JJ. Just can't stand it. Like that was perfect. Oh my God, sir, you were killing it tonight. I'm going to throw out one more question, and then I'm going to try and completely restart my browser. Is this objectively the worst Sarek?
Objectively what?
The worst Sarek?
The worst Sarek. Out of all the different actors we've seen that have played Sarek.
Oh. Yeah, they don't give him anything to do. Besides,
Yeah, he's pretty
Spock, you
forgettable.
need to be more Vulcan. And
He gets-
by the way, you shouldn't be as Vulcan because I really loved your mother.
He gets to stand on the bridge and look disappointed at Spock once.
Yeah, real looming dad mode.
It's such a far cry from anything that Sarek is about. You know, Sarek is one of the most complicated characters on Trek, I think.
There he is.
And this guy is just, well, you're angry. That makes sense. Bye-bye. They just didn't really give him much to do.
Mhm.
I don't really think that's really the actor's fault. I think that the writing for Sarek is just terrible.
Like it's
Oh, yeah.
almost like he was there out of obligation, not like they actually wanted him in the story.
Yeah, sometimes like it just feels like the character's in there just to blurt out the thing that needs to be in there, not they don't really actually serve a purpose.
I almost feel as if Sarek, and I don't know, like the role old Spock played in the movie should have been Sarek, or vice versa, I guess. They didn't need both of them.
Like that line could have gone to Uhura. They could have had that discussion. Sarek didn't need to be there.
For his mother.
Yeah, the disco one is is Gideon from the Quantum Leap reboot, which
Oh,
approximately 0.1 people will get.
I don't actually even have one of him. I have one of Winona Ryder as his mom. I also think this is the worst.
Not bad.
I think this is the worst Amanda too. And I like Winona
she
Ryder.
made no
like, yeah,
sense.
she just doesn't get to do anything and then dies.
Like, why stunt cast somebody for that role? Unless she specifically came in there and said, "Hey, I want to be Amanda. Put me in the movie for 3 seconds."
Was this before Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
way before.
Yeah.
I sometimes I forget that's her, honestly. Oh, hello, baby. We're being joined by a seventh.
Give us all the opinions.
Objectively, the best critic in the room.
Indeed.
Yeah, I guess we already talked about her and Kirk in the bar. How would Spock going all the way through applying to the Vulcan Science Academy just to turn, or why would he go all the way through just to turn it down?
Because fuck you, Sarek. That's why.
He almost literally redid that scene from Half Baked. Like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool, Dad.
It just seemed to be in there to parallel Kirk's rebellion. To be like, see, these are kindred spirits. He's also a rebel. That would, but that's like a lot of effort to do.
He showed them. He didn't go into their fancy, emotionless school. He didn't take it.
Is it far too fan service that there's a shipyard close enough to Kirk to reach by motorcycle that's also building the Enterprise?
Why, yes. How did you know? Yeah.
And like,
Yes.
I've heard people bring up like the San Francisco fleet yards before as being unbelievable. And, you know, maybe it is, but also like a cornfield in Iowa. I mean, I guess the land was easy to acquire.
They got plenty of cliffs and plenty of flat, apparently.
I'm still stuck on the fact that there's no reason for there to be roads. There shouldn't be roads.
I want to buy the Kirk motorcycle like a big dumb child and ride it around.
Not only are there roads,
the
though,
Kirk motorcycle.
there's cops. There's cops monitoring the roads.
Yeah, you can see like
Emotional
a
stuff.
traffic violation on a road.
Right.
Hundreds
But
of
I mean,
years
they
ago.
do have like a dread-like lawgiver there going on, so they can like fly too. They can get the Marty McFlys in the DeLorean also.
I guess there's enough people into the hundreds of years old car scene to justify the continued existence of roads.
Well, let's be fair here.
Antique
Let's
cars.
say Pike really wanted to convince Kirk to join Starfleet, so he moved the entire shipbuilding operation to just outside his house, just to taunt him the entire time he was growing up.
I'd buy it. That makes sense.
This might have been another money motivated thing. It's much cheaper to build something out in the middle of nowhere than on San Francisco Bay.
Yeah, but you kind of feel like a ship that size, like it feels like it would have some kind of atmospheric or environmental effect lifting off from the surface, which is why they build them that size in space.
Yeah, like what happened to Space Dock? Why isn't it in Space Dock?
Is
And
this,
yes,
is
Nadia,
this
it does remind me of
They're like the
Admiral
best
Dick
shell
Cheese
for
from
you
the
guys.
next movie.
Because weren't all ships shown being built in space prior to this movie, and ever since they've been primarily shown on the ground?
With the exception of the Phoenix, yes, but for
Oh,
obvious reasons.
okay, yeah.
We knew that the San Francisco fleet yards existed. We just hadn't seen it until Discovery.
Yeah, but I feel like Discovery showed us that Prodigy. I don't remember seeing any ships being built in space since. Maybe.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
that is a good point. The Iowa thing is just a little like, oh, right in Kirk's backyard. Ha ha ha. What a coincidence.
Literally, they should have showed him on his porch drinking a lemonade, just staring at it.
That would have been a cool bit of scenery, honestly. Like, it would have shown that Starfleet is so close to rural America that Kirk can just watch it take off or something like that. That would at least give a little bit of context to his home life on Earth and how he does his own thing in that time. Yeah.
How do you feel about what we learn about the nickname of Bones?
Oh, I hate that. Oh, I hate that
It's
so
so
much.
Hate it.
Absolutely
Awful.
despise it.
It did
listen,
no reason.
It
No
just
reason
it's
to
destroys-
not
exist.
that I don't believe that there are divorces in the future. Okay, like it's fine that he got divorced, but the idea that there's still like in a post-scarcity Star Trek future, people are still having like disputes over property to the extent that men are complaining about being left only with their bones is ridiculous. Oh my
And
god!
you're a
as a
lawyer
family
and you're
law attorney, it makes me,
surprised
like,
that
extra
there are
mad.
still people that want like all of the things and they will
Right.
take the time to take you to court for it.
I just don't buy that court would like in Star Trek era be doing that anymore at all. I
There would
mean,
be
they'd
no
just be like, you
incentive.
take your replicator, you take your replicator, go replicate the things you need to build new house. Like,
Yeah.
I'm with Nadia. I guess I'm like in the
Oh.
minority. I actually like this explanation. I think it's funny. I think it's cute. I do kind of agree with you guys. Like, it seems like a little bit of a stretch, but think about it this way: from kind of what we've seen of like the rights and land ownership and stuff in the future, something like, say, Chateau Picard that's been in Picard's family all his life, and then he marries Beverly, and then she's like, no, I'm gonna go take our kid and we're gonna like go do some other stuff without you, and I'm taking Chateau Picard also. So
yeah, okay, all right.
you know, at least as far as property is concerned, I can kind of see it.
I
Chateau
do
Crusher,
really
bitch.
like Carl Urban as Bones. He's
Oh,
really,
yeah.
really good.
Mhm.
He's a
so good at
doctor.
it. He's like
He's
perfect.
a doctor. It could have had to do with that the fact that he's a doctor, and like I just found it like randomly misogynistic. Like what's the purpose? This could have been about him being a surgeon or something, or like he saw a bone
Yeah.
sticking out of someone's arm and he freaked out. Like they could have related it to his
Something
medical
happened
background.
to his bones.
He could be the only survivor of a moopsie plague or something.
Oh, he kept all his bones.
Yeah.
Took everything.
When I
And
saw
all I was
this-
left with was
That is my
bones.
favorite new piece of headcanon.
They had infinite options to develop lore about his name, and that they picked the most misogynistic option. It's just like, why?
When I saw this
I mean,
in
he also
theater,
has
I
his-
just thought that was the dumbest thing. Like, well, they like wiped away like all further options for that nickname to pop up, and it doesn't even feel like a good way to get something a nickname. It feels like that's going to come up later, and he's going to do it once, and he's going to be like, "Don't do that. I don't want you to do that. I didn't say I wanted you to do that. Call me Bones."
Like-
And then it's going to fall
And
dead.
yeah, like if this,
Ah.
this story was true, why would he want to be reminded of it with a
Yeah.
nickname?
Oh my god,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yes.
Calling him Bones
Yes.
is really mean.
Yeah, they could have gone the opposite direction and
Yeah.
played with our expectations. So somebody calls him Bones, he's like, no, call me Leo.
Ugh.
Who made that such a hard ass thing? You know, like you could watch someone get beat up by Bones or something, and like the guy is like only like smash bones or some shit, like something, something better than this. I hate.
Yeah, I'm a doctor.
I
I know
don't like the.
I know 37 ways to break your bones.
I like the surgeon idea. You could just be an orthopedic surgeon at one point.
Yeah, that was always the supposition by people is like, oh yeah, it's sawbones. It like that's what it
Yeah.
means.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of dig it that they like subverted our expectations and went in another direction with this. It's fine for me as a whole.
Fair enough.
I mean, it doesn't ruin the movie. I just thought didn't need
No.
to be there, I guess.
Most of the questions we have left are comparing things from this to counterparts and other things that have happened in Star Trek. Let's start with Lee Greenwood. What do you think about him versus the other Pikes?
He's
Whoa.
fine.
Threw me off for something, man.
He's a serviceable Pike.
He's a good character. I don't know if I really
Colon,
look at him as
colon.
Pike, though. He doesn't. He doesn't scream Pike to me. He screams just a new character that they're putting into that role.
They did it. He did end up in the wheelchair at the end, so he hit that beat, I guess.
Well, but he got less damage.
Right.
With no beeping.
Yes.
He was fine,
didn't-
serviceable. Like it doesn't seem like Pike is really distinct as a character in this.
I also love that you're doing crochet, Nadia. I have spent the past week doing a buttload of sewing.
Yeah, well, Mr. Captain, I mean, that's impossible. No one's going to replicate that hair ever.
Quick question, Destin. How do you measure a buttload?
You don't really know.
6 bushels to the hog's head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Pike's Peak is not
The
going
English
to be
one.
topped. It's just not gonna.
I mean, it's literally the Paramount logo.
Did I say Lee Greenwood? Because it wouldn't
Oh,
surprise me.
Yes.
Did you?
And it threw
Oh,
me
okay.
off.
Oh,
To be
whoops.
quite honest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I even
Lee
have in my
Greenwood's
notes
a
Bruce, not
musician.
Lee.
Did Bruce Greenwood do a duet with Nancy Sinatra?
Hmm.
Thanks for correcting me on that one, Nadia. I'm sorry, but everybody else knew what I was talking about. I like him better than Jeffrey Hunter, less than Anson Mount, but maybe not as a human being. I think I like Lee. Jesus Christ! I think I like Bruce Greenwood the best as a human
Stop
being
doing
of the three. He doesn't have the controversies around him. I mean, Jeffrey Hunter, if he'd been cast and been as Pike, he died in 1968, partially because he was just like a huge alcoholic.
Oh, he was in Fall of the House of Usher. He was great in that. He's a really good actor.
That was so good. Gosh.
I like this Pike quite a bit, actually. I kind of like his demeanor and the way he talks to people. I don't know if it necessarily falls in line with the other Pikes, but of course, there's less scandal around him than Anson Mount. That's that makes it much easier to root for, in my opinion. So.
I mean, I guess it makes sense in this new universe for the characters to have, spent the last 22 years or whatever changing completely from what we expect. So it doesn't feel like it's a problem.
He definitely has some gravitas when he gets the opportunity. I just think he didn't get the opportunity as much as he should have in this movie.
Yeah. And that's another thing about the next movie. I think we're robbed of adventures with Pike. Like, I was excited for that. I wanted to see what we were going to do with that, and then he's just out of the movie almost immediately. It's fucking murder.
Kirk's got to be the captain. He's just gotta.
Pike
Quickly
adventure was
promoted over Spock, like so
It was.
fast.
Pike doesn't have one.
Well, not even just over Spock, over literally every other character.
Oh my god, he got Mariner Boimler.
So the other comparison that I want to talk a little bit about, how does the relationship between Spock and Uhura compare to that of Spock and Chapel in Strange New Worlds?
It's worse.
Well, it's less developed by a wide margin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I wasn't not invested in it when I was watching because, like, both of the actors do a really good job.
I just wish she had a job aside from this.
Yeah.
Like she
Zoe-
was,
Occasionally translate.
they talked about how skilled she was, that she was at the top of her class, that she could translate all this stuff. Kirk
She
and
did
Spock.
translate Romulan, and that was like a key point. So that's actually maybe more than Nichelle Nichols got to do for the first like 3 movies.
Right,
Fair.
but they
Yeah.
talked about her abilities more than they actually showed them.
Her
And-
big revelation came off screen so that she could explain it while she was getting naked.
Yeah. It
It
just
just felt-
feels like she's been kind of like, in some ways, demoted to a sex symbol more than like a beloved character with more to offer.
It has
Mhm.
similar flaws to TOS's Uhura, but which is really disappointing because you can fix that in this new era. Like,
Yeah,
we're
It's
aware
less
of the issue,
forgivable in 2009.
right? But like, it's to me, it's even worse because like in TOS, they made it a little bit of, they hinted at Uhura kind of trying to get with Spock, but it was more of like a
Mhm.
her coming on to him kind of thing. But he said no, and then they
She
kept it pushing. But with this, it's like all they do, they're just sort of de facto together.
They need
Chap-
romance. They gotta have it.
Mhm.
Chapel also appealed to Spock's humanity, and that was like a big plot point with Chapel and Spock, and that's why they got together. Whereas with this, it's like, why are they together? Who knows?
I feel like they try to do that a little bit by implication, but like they just don't develop it because they don't have time because they're in the middle of all of these fistfights and chases and action sequences.
And maybe I
Right.
misremember, but I don't think they even come back to it in any of the other Kelvin movies.
No, they do. It's a plot point and
Do they?
beyond.
Do they like break up during like falling onto like a descent onto a planet or fight? Something like that
Yeah, so
happens in the second.
I mean, not the
It's been a
rules.
while.
They break up and beyond, but it's a plot point because they use one of the gifts that Spock gave to Uhura or vice versa as like the way to solve the problem.
I never remember that movie, honestly, and we'll get to that in a couple of weeks.
But I don't know if they reference it in Darkness. I don't remember.
All I remember about that movie is how aesthetically it was so dark and that I hated it.
Maybe like John Harrison, regular guy.
And the pierced Klingons. Oh, the pierced Klingons. It was actually kind of a cool idea, but for the rest of the execution.
Well, they were actually in this movie. They just excised that whole portion of it.
That's true.
Mm.
So here's a question. Why lens flare? Why? Just why?
Because
Shock and awe.
It actually hurt my eyes in some places. Like it felt like I was looking directly into the sun.
They were quite bright.
Yeah.
There's
I
something. There's
remember-
like 700 something in this movie.
I remember a couple of times in the theaters, like I would just look down away from the screen because it would just like flash across my eyes so many times.
Like, why would you make something so visually hostile, you know, with the close-up shots and the super high contrast to the point where it's like grainy? It looks almost low resolution.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Reminds me of when you get a director that, or like a cinematographer that like saw a Dutch angle once and thought, oh, that's really cool, and then uses it just like to absolute death. And I feel like that's just kind of what happened here. It's like, ooh,
There were some of those here too.
That had a lens flare. Let's add a lens
Yes, there
flare,
were.
and another one here, and another one here, and another one here.
I don't know if it's supposed to attract attention, but it did make me want to look at it.
There's just so much
the
happening
thing-
at all times.
And to think people called J.J. Abrams the next Steven Spielberg.
Well, I mean, whether you like the guy or not, he has done some pretty high-grossing things and been attached to some big stuff. Whether any of us agree with most of it or not.
But that's what he does. He gets into things and starts them, and then he dips out before the end.
Oh,
Private equity firm. I'm telling you, he's the private equity firm of movie making. Terminator,
actually
like
like this movie.
Transformers, Ninja Turtles, Star Trek, Star
Batman,
Wars.
Batman, Eris.
That was. Because leave us not forget, he did Force Awakens, which shares a very very disappointing fact with this movie. They both cribbed from something better, pretty heavily.
All right, Nadia,
Force
I'll
Awakens
bite.
was almost a good movie.
What did I like about this movie? I like that it's a pretty decent action movie, a pretty good popcorn muncher. We're gonna get into it really soon. I think the villain's for shit, but other than Nero, like if everything was set up by something other than this villain, I would absolutely love this movie and probably give it an 8 or so. Again, we're gonna get there really soon, but I do genuinely like most of the stuff. Is everything perfect? No, but like we're talking, like Bruce Greenwood for me, that he's number 2 out of 3. Like that's kind of the thing with this movie. It's on the upper end of mediocre. It's a really, really polished, mediocre thing. But I did overall enjoy it.
I mean, like the floor is just so low, or the floor or the ceiling, whatever architectural thing is just so low. With how bad some of the Trek movies are, that honestly this one's still probably one of my favorites. It's definitely like in the top half in terms of like ones that I actually do rewatch sometimes. It's got lots of nice little moments. Despite all my bitching, I do like this movie. I have a lot of like nostalgia for it because my dad and I went to the theater twice to see it. We went to like the real theater and then the drive-in theater, and it was fun. It's a fun movie.
Yeah, the climax of the movie I enjoyed. I actually enjoyed the sequence with Kirk getting that weird allergic reaction and he had giant hands. That made me laugh.
Oh, that was funny.
That was good. I like Kirk is really going through it in this movie. Like he's getting the crap beat out of him and Bones hit him with like several hypo sprays in this scene, which was really funny.
Just kept trying things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the best way I would describe it is I like this movie generally too, but it's like It's all marshmallow and no like meal. It's
That is the best way to describe it right there.
I like the setup. Like the way they went about it, like they're trying to tell a new Star Trek story so long after making a few TNG movies. So they come up with the idea that, okay, we'll have the future, mess with the past, and now you get a whole new timeline where you can do entirely different things, possibly for the same reasons or whatever. The execution isn't great, but they had a good premise.
Mhm.
And I think it's
also-
cast incredibly well.
Yeah,
all
Oh,
the
yeah.
main characters, I buy everybody. I have no problem with any of the recasting here.
Oh man.
the cast is pretty good. I just don't necessarily love the way that they updated Ahura, and yeah, that other than that, it's like acting wise, no notes.
Yeah, if the writing had been better, they would all be perfect, basically.
Mm-hmm. And even then, when it comes to Ahura, I don't want to like put it on Nichelle Nichols, but because she was so horribly written for. Like Nichelle Nichols is a good actress, but she often didn't get anything to do. I feel like this Ahura, she's like the number 2 in between Celia Rose Gooding and Nichelle Nichols. Purely because of the writing. And even here, I agree, it's not as good as it could be. It's not as good as it is in Strange New Worlds. But did they give her at least a little bit to do? More than Nichelle Nichols, unfortunately.
Yeah, even in the movies, the TOS movies, she's not doing a whole lot.
The only time she got to do something's in the animated series, which nobody watched.
Yes, the Lorelei signal is one of the best episodes of TAS, and she knocks it out of the park.
Oh,
in
yeah,
that
she's
one.
great in that.
But yeah, aside from Sarek and I guess Nero, there's not much to complain about acting wise here, or actor wise. Even Keenser, who didn't do much, was fun. He was good enough.
Yeah, so I've never been clear. Is that character, Franklin, is that the guy that died in the transporter beam with Scotty on the Janolan in TNG?
Sure. I actually
Because
don't
he
know.
calls him Franklin, and then like it's a dude named Franklin that died on the Janolan.
Anytime I hear the name Franklin, I'm thinking of the turtle.
Yeah.
The
Same.
turtle.
Hey, it's Franklin. Coming over to our ship.
Brain rot. Millennial brain rot.
Sorry, it's no baby shark.
Dating ourselves here. Do.
So why didn't Olsen pull his chute? What happened there?
I don't know, he just choked. He got scared.
He's too
Well,
horny
you
for battle.
see, we need one guy to be really silly to make everyone else look smarter.
Because he was wearing the red uniform. They don't have shit.
Because why
Or
not?
maybe he committed, maybe he did himself in because the future is not really as bright and utopian as it seems. But I don't think there's as much context there for that.
And he was wearing red.
He was forced into Starfleet. He was drafted against his will. He was trying to get out.
He seemed to be like just before they were about to go
Franklin
on
was on Canadian TV too. Sorry, just responding to the comments.
just before they were going on this sort of like skydiving thing, he had, I forget exactly what he said, but he said something that indicated that he was like really hyped to do this, and it just seemed like he had no healthy fear of death.
You know
I
what?
think he could get in the gear,
I feel bad for Franklin, but I'll never love Franklin the way I loved Hawk. I mean, my beautiful boy Hawk. Like, why would you be taken from us so soon?
I mean, I think I like Lynch better than Franklin. But...
yeah, okay.
All right, as we hit the 50-minute mark, Here's a couple of really big questions. Does Nero feel like a real villain whose motivations make sense? And is he the worst Trek villain?
You just my planet was destroyed, so now I'm gonna destroy your planet because you didn't do enough to stop it. No, I mean, I guess in the context of the movie, it sort of makes sense if you're just like an evil monster hell-bent on revenge with not a shred of like reasonableness or decency, but like that's not very interesting as a villain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this movie a way better ranking than last week's, but I liked Shinzon way better as a villain, honestly, than this one.
Shinzon still
Yeah,
had like I really see Nemesis as a natural predecessor to this. Because it's very similarly like beyond a certain point he's unreasonable. Like other villains kind of do that too, but in this he even said out loud, I don't even care if Romulus is destroyed 1,000 times over. I will never accept your help. And it's like this is just he lacked charisma. He never quoted Shakespeare. The look of the Romulans is very like tribal tattoo in this movie, which I don't understand. He looks very Anton LaVey.
I kind of hate the way he talks, like the way he's always talking like this.
Yeah.
Explaining it to you like this.
That acting was really bad. Like the way that he would deliver lines, just super flat and like, the motive wasn't even clear until 2/3 of the way into the movie, which is like horrible storytelling to me.
Yeah.
The pacing.
And then once you get the motive, you're just like, oh, that's a choice.
It's like worse Anorax.
Well, at least they did explain that in Picard about like the northern and the southern Romulans. So, there's like the Irish Romulans, and then there's the other.
So there's like Romulan supremacists similar to like Klingons or something.
Oh God, yes. As for is he the worst villain? God,
in the
really,
movies?
really close. I actually, Nani's like, well, Cybok. There's things that I like about Cybok. The movie, not good. Even his motivations and how he's villain in it, not good. But I like the character overall. It's nuanced. It's interesting. It's different.
Yeah.
This character is just so one-dimensional. James Bond, fucking mediocre villain of the week. He's either the worst or the second worst. My problem is when I get to the final one of these, Beyond, I can't even remember the villain's name. Like, I know Nero's name without having to look at it. I can't tell you right now the name of the villain from that because it's so bad. I hate his motivations. I don't understand them at all.
Most villains have, even in Bonds, like villains have like a grand plan for their scheme or whatever, and have means in order to do it, and fail safes and plan Bs and like some conception of how they're going to execute this plan. This is just, I have big ship. I'm going to kill this person and everyone they know because whatever, it's,
I mean, even if they had done something a little more interesting, like because this is an alternate timeline, he viewed this entire universe as like fake and not real, so he didn't give a crap. And he was just trying to hunt down Spock, and he's like, the rest of you are just pointless copies. I don't care about you. That's at least something different, not just
a time code duplicate is always doomed.
Like if his mission was so personal, it could have been done so much better. Like he could have just been alone in a ship on a mission to hunt a person and that is
He
it.
could
That
have
to me is far more frightening
infiltrated
than
the Enterprise to get Spock. That would have been
Right.
way more interesting to watch.
Gotta
Mhm.
hunt your red matter whale.
Okay. Okay, now that we've got that on the table, I want to think about him like trying to kill old Spock like hand to hand and like seeing how that would play out. You know, we could have had like shakes in here that would have integrated our guest appearances a lot better. uh, hmm.
Yeah, I mean Leonard Nimoy was too old for that shit at this point, but
I know, but I mean they could have
Yeah.
faked it a little bit. I mean,
yeah,
I'm just saying.
I get what you're saying.
I did like that we basically got a ripoff of the Hoth sequence from the original Star Wars trilogy. That was funny.
They had the whole there's always a bigger fish thing too. Was from Phantom Menace.
See, but that's like a personal thing.
Zero Hell is such a good episode.
Yeah, that's like a personal
So
goal.
That
With
was
this,
way
it
better.
just there
executed.
wasn't
It's a
an
personal
end
goal, but it's
point.
also his fault too. So his own guilt, his own hubris.
But he was still like perfectly accepting of an insane amount of collateral damage to get wife back, and that was way more compelling. Like here, like this guy's just like, I'll destroy whole planets. I don't give a shit.
Well, and he
Because
didn't even
what I
seem to
that's
care about
why.
his wife and like getting his wife back in this new universe. It's
Exactly.
all
He does.
revenge.
He's like, yeah, I'll let Romulus just get destroyed another 1,000 times. Whatever, as long as I get to inflict cruelty on Spock. And something I really was driven home for me watching it this time was his crew was even asked him like, well, so what are you going to do with Spock, or however it was phrased, and he's just like, no, I'm not going to kill him. That's not the point. Like he's here to inflict cruelty. This is Donald Trump. The cruelty is the point.
Yeah. But from a story perspective, unjustified and uninteresting.
I agree with you, Mr. Captain 93. I agree with you. He could have done this all better. Like, he could have solved all these problems. Like, he should have learned the right lesson out of this. Like, something better is missing.
I mean, to be fair, it doesn't seem like he had a good hold on time travel because him just simple mine worker.
Mm-hmm. He yearns
as
for the
keeps
mines.
pointing out.
Because
I mean, he came back, and then like I'm still unclear. So he just like he came back to the wrong time, and then he just waited like 25 years. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
There's a whole cut plot line. So the Klingons, if you remember, that's the thing Uhura told us about when she was getting undressed, where they destroyed all those Klingon ships. He was captured.
I remember.
His crew was captured and put in a Klingon like prison camp for like 25 years.
Yep.
They escaped, destroyed all those Klingon ships, and that's where we pick up with them here. But they cut that whole stuff. It's on the deleted scenes, a little of it.
Whoa.
Was it also like?
It's
Do
that.
I remember there being like a series of prequel comics to this too?
Yes, where Picard and Spock were the ones planning the evacuation and stuff, and Data was captain of the Enterprise. And there was they
liked
had
the prequel
outfitted
comics.
the Narada with Borg technology in that, which is why it was so extra super cool.
Just a simple mining ship is, you know, it's like a plain simple tailor here, when as Nero puts it.
If that's simple, I'd like to see their complex mining ships.
Oh boy, they're just a triangle, not even a pyramid, just a triangle.
Where are the travelers?
Those are day off.
They all take turns, the Federation Time Police and the Travelers and the Q. Who's going to save the universe today?
Who is going to imperil the universe today?
All right, so with 30 seconds left, is red matter one of the dumbest bits of technobabble and MacGuffin in Trek?
MacGuffin, yes, I wouldn't even classify it as technobabble. It's just thing does stuff.
It does a thing.
They
And
got
then
that-
Explain what it does, or where it came from, or why it's so important. You know,
It's
like
red.
and it's red.
That was I kind of appreciate
It's
the
a spoil.
explanation that there wasn't. They're like, how did you get here? All right, well, I was using red matter. Like, that's just the explanation. You're not going to tell us what that is? Nope. Okay.
You know what? This movie is moving too fast. We don't have time for fancy explanations about major plot devices that have never appeared before in Star Trek. Series historically connected to technology and exploring technological ideas. We don't have any time for that in this movie. We gotta get along with the plot. Like we
We
gotta
can't
get
tell a
people
story. We
arguing.
have a movie to make.
It felt like it
Give
felt
me that
like
script for Wrath of Khan.
JJ's it felt like JJ's lecture on mystery boxes. Like it doesn't even
It's
matter what is in the
nice,
box.
nice.
It's just that there is a box. And that's what Red Matter felt like. Like it's just like it could have been if you're not going to explain it, then maybe do a thing like, Pulp Fiction where they open the briefcase. Like make it
Yeah.
make it more interesting than just whatever the hell that was.
Wait a minute. You're telling me the guy behind Lost really said what's in the box doesn't matter? I find that hard to believe.
What's in the box?
15 years later, I'm still upset.
And
Well, that's not his fault. He left the
28
show.
years later, I'm still wondering what's in the box in 7. Anyway, we have reached our 1 hour mark. Let's get into the out of 10s. I actually liked this one. Like, I know we kind of shit on it just a little bit because it does have problems and it is boring in parts and it does have a really, really exceptionally bad villain. But if you were to remove Nero and put different stakes in here for me, this could have been an 8 or a 9. As it is, I'm going to give it a 6.75. I think it's actually pretty decent.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel pretty similarly, honestly. I'll give it a 7.5, because I am a soft touch with the ratings, and while it is a mess, it does have a lot going for it. There is a lot of charisma in this movie, and I do think it does do a decent job of bringing certain elements of Star Trek to a brand new audience. And if we have this to thank for Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks and Discovery, like, okay, it's pretty good. I have watched this movie voluntarily more than once.
So I will say two things. I think this has aged a little worse than I remembered, probably because this is the first time I've watched it since we've had so much of the new generation of Trek out there. So when it first came out, and this is something that was kind of mind-boggling to me thinking back, the gap between the end of Enterprise and this movie, I remember feeling like an eternity, but it was only 4 years. But I remember it feeling like a decade of just no Trek, and it was like, oh, suddenly we have something. But I still think if you can, this is more of a turn your brain off. There's not really any underlying principles of Star Trek going on. It's glossy paint. It's a fun action ride. None of the motivations really need to make that much sense because there's no time to stop and think about them. It's just you get on the roller coaster and there's literally no breathing room until you get to the end, aside from maybe a moment where you get to spend with old Spock contemplating like where we came from before. So, and like we said before, even when they're not given much to do, most of the casting in this was a pretty good job, which is primarily the reason they can't make a fourth one, because all these people blew up and can't come back for a decent price. But I think overall, probably about 6.5. Definitely watchable, but it's not necessarily what I'm looking for in a Star Trek movie to fill my soul.
Fair. Okay, so I saw this one in the theater when it came out, and it had been a while for me because I completely skipped Nemesis, I think, and Insurrection in the theaters. But I read a review of it in a local paper afterwards, and it referred to it as a popcorn movie with a pedigree. And I thought that, well, obviously, I thought that was pretty significant because it stuck with me until now. Because it really is geared for, just an audience who just wants to come and shove popcorn in their faces and enjoy a space battle or two, and doesn't necessarily dig into deeper issues, but it's also playing with fan service because you've got all these classic characters you know and love, and references throughout all the place, and so much cribbing from Wrath of Khan that I made it the subject of the first video I ever put on YouTube. But
nice.
I don't think that detracts from it too much for me. But overall, you know, with an older and I hope slightly wiser, more analytical mind toward it, I'm giving it a 7.
I am going to give this a 1.5. It's one of the worst movies I think I've ever seen that has Star Trek attached to it. So visually panicked. It's unwatchable in some places because it's so like busy that I actually felt kind of nauseous. And I had this similar issue with Section 31, just the cinematography. Like I can't deal with just not having no non-shaky cam angles anywhere. The story is horribly paced. The fact that we don't get the villain's motivations until 2/3 of the way into the movie is inexcusable because it makes everything leading up to it entirely almost filler. The very beginning having these comically large stakes and like everything's just in a frenzy and giving birth and just it's just so panicked, and it could have any other sticker of franchise on it and it would be the same movie. Like it has almost nothing to do with Star Trek aside from this nostalgia and everything. I did like Scotty. I like the fact that he innovated some things in this where he's like beaming people simultaneously or whatever. I thought that was interesting. I liked the allergic reaction scene, but like there's almost no relationship with anything having to do with Star Trek in this movie, so 1.5.
Okay, I've been kind of weighing my opinion against everybody else, and I think maybe a 6 is the best I should really give this because I think on a story level, this thing wastes major opportunities to set up its characters in a better way. But I wanted to like this more because when I saw this when I was a teenager, I had a fun time with it, but I recognize also that the action of it is kind of unexplained in a enjoyable way that you would want out of a Star Trek franchise. I mean, it's just kind of an airhead adventure, and I think it gets by on charm alone. I think it might be one of the only Star Trek movies that's capable of kind of coasting on the charm of its cast, like the sheer charm of its cast. I think it does give everyone a few little moments between each other that shows a sense of chemistry that is notable. But also, it's a suffocating movie. Like people are just talking at breakneck speed. Like everything happens at breakneck speed. You never get a real break until the very final end, and that can lead to some comedy, but it doesn't lead to as much comedy as the movie thinks it's doing. On top of that, it wastes Zoe Saldana as Uhura, an excellent actress, and gives her sophomoric nonsense to have to play into. Chris Pine is amazing as Kurt, but of course he has to play into sophomoric nonsense. Yeah, I think maybe this is all I can grant this film.
Wow, I think this might be one of the widest ranges we've seen here in, what is this, 11 out of the 13 original movies. Holy crap. 11 down, 2 to go. It's definitely all downhill from here, at least for me. So we'll be back with you next week, and we have literally a con for you. So I'd like to thank all of you that joined me here as my co-hosts and all of you for tuning in. So until we see you again, live long.